Initiating program Coriander Society Adventures. Active users, Beatdown Boulevard, Ninja Man Matt, Pods of War. Presiding Administrator, Tormented by Gnomes. Commence program.
Welcome back, everybody, to Coriander Society Adventures. It is good to be here with my awesome friends, and you are awesome viewers, listeners, wherever you are, past, present, or future. Let's roll some dice. Let's do some stuff.
Yes, please.
XP for everyone.
Yay! Oh, I was wondering why there was no talking.
How much XP did you just get?
Well, at least one.
Have I talked at all?
Yeah.
You
You
did.
talked
Okay,
earlier.
I just
You
muted.
said
All
let's
right,
roll some
cool.
dice, and then you muted.
Awesome. Don't worry, we are professionals.
Very good, very good. Likely, this is the 37th time since we started playing that's happened. Just gonna put that out there.
And this is episode 33.
No one's counting.
I'm
Matt,
counting.
no, trust me. There's XP.
I'm
Matt's counting.
I'm counting it. Not even for the XP. It's just funny.
No.
Guys.
You get yourself XP every time, so it's an easy way to know. Oh, it's happened 37 times. Also, I clearly skipped 12 because I was at 25.
Oh, dude, I've been counting every single time.
It's funny. In Coriander Society, we're using what's called milestone XP, which is basically we level up when I, the Dungeon Master, feel like it, rather than actually tracking XP. In our Descent into Avernus campaign, we're running a classic sandbox where we track XP from defeating monsters, completing quests, stuff like that. So keeping careful records is super important. And what I always do is I say, you all get X number of XP. Matt writes it down, and at the end of the sessions, everyone's like, hey, how much XP should we have? Matt, can we copy your homework?
Yeah, compare it to.
Oh my
Compare
god.
it. Yes, it's good. It's good.
Yep, that's always what happens. I'm not naming any names, and I'm not pulling it up to expose your shame to chat, but there's a lot of people. Okay, there's at least one people who's not logged into Roll20. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, it's not me. I love
Damn it.
that.
Okay, I am logged in.
You didn't click launch?
I need better instructions.
Are you familiar with the peanut butter sandwich methodology of writing training materials?
No?
So,
What is this?
my wife brings this up all the time. It's like when you're creating user instructions, think of making a peanut butter sandwich. So you're like, all right, so take the peanut butter and put it on both sides of the bread, and you immediately interrupt with what peanut butter? Because step one is get the peanut butter from the cupboard, get the bread from literally every single step. Retrieve a fork or a knife. We make a lot of assumptions, but when you're writing training material, you need to be explicitly clear.
Yep. It's true though.
That's happened to me countless times. So it's like, I'm logged in. Oh yeah, I need to get in the game though.
Yeah.
So it goes.
My go-to is, can I roll something? If I can't roll something, I'm not logged in.
That's fair. That's fair.
Can you roll 20?
You know what we should do? Oh my gosh, you guys, before we load up every day, we should roll for initiative. And that way, if everyone can roll for initiative, that means you're in and you're ready. If you can't roll for initiative, that means you're not.
That's not a bad idea.
When I'm really clever and I'm preparing a game session and I know there's going to be a fight, maybe, those huge fights we've had in Dragoon and on this planet where there's 5 different types of bad guys. And at the beginning of the fight, I have to sit there and roll all of them in. When I'm super clever, as I'm setting up my map, I pre-roll all of that stuff. And there are some people who just say at the beginning of every session, roll for initiative. That's your initiative for the whole game session.
Oh, that's interesting.
No.
That's very interesting.
So, I could see that working, say, for our show, because usually on this show, we have one big fight scene per episode. But in Descent into Avernus, you guys went through 5 little rooms in the dungeon, and those are each separate fights. And that may, if you rolled bad initiative at the beginning of the session, every single time there's a fight, you're like, oh boy, here I go, playing last. All right.
What? I was considering saying something, but I'm like, we're not playing Descent into Avernus, we're playing Coriander. I'll just let it die. You have your chat option that's like, it's like, I'll just let that one go to the
Yeah, when you don't respond. Yeah. All right.
I have just gotten so accustomed to awkward silence. I'm like, I'm not going to say anything. I like it.
I've learned to enjoy silence.
Right? I was gonna say I've been staring at Beatdown's back for 3 minutes now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's why. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for your courtesy.
This is mukbang. All right.
Now this is pod racing.
No, this is pod racing. When we last left our heroes, they had successfully landed an Exarch spaceship in the Voski Mountains.
Oh, you were there.
They brought it back to the Voski city, and they had a night to rest and recover from their adventure. Now, the whole reason that you came to this universe and to the planet Lacunas specifically was to retrieve Vignar technology to save Florence Giotto, which I think I've said like the last 16 episodes in a row.
In a row.
It's when you have this multi-dimensional hopping campaign, it's very important to be like, hey, why are we doing this again? Oh, right. So
That girl.
you have the tech specs.
You mean the daughter of the guy we hate? Why are we doing this again? No.
What's the point? I forgot about them.
We're in Lacunas now. That's just your problem.
That's old
A whole
news.
different world.
Yeah. And then
Anyway.
Gastone's like, my morals. But my morals.
So you've done it. Congratulations. You got the tech that you need. And everyone gets a long rest. Make sure you've rested. Make sure you've leveled up. All that good stuff.
No
Wait,
way.
leveled up? What?
Not you.
Are we? What? No. But are we doing the Gestalt level? The
No.
right?
They just hit level 8. Remember, like basically at the end of this, we should have already taken care of that.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
But I asked last time, and we said we hadn't hit the trigger on it yet. Now that we're hitting the trigger on it, I'm adding my ability.
Yes, go ahead. You get a feat, right? You picked up a feat.
Yeah. I did.
Excellent. Okay.
I have an excuse for talking so much now.
Oh wow. You let him pick that one.
It does. It's not going to let him talk more. It's just going to like support.
It's gonna give an in-game effect for all of the talking.
Right. So now when he
Yeah.
talks a lot, you'll all get benefits from it
Yeah.
instead
I'm
of the
okay with it.
penalties you normally get in real life.
Hey, get off my penalties, man. That's all I got.
Disadvantage in the chat.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Here's the situation. Night falls in Voski City. Everyone retires to their chambers, which, as guests of Prince Casimir of the House of Voski, are opulent, high platforms, huge suites, own private bathrooms, living rooms, just absolutely fancy Art Deco, over the top, ornate decor all over the place. Balconies overlooking the city built into the sides of 3 mountains that all sort of come together in this one central spot. Gorgeous place. Delicious food. All that jazz.
They have
Here's
jazz?
no, the Voski prefer opera.
Wow.
Actually, they prefer like opera and then hardcore Slav techno, you know.
Yeah. Oh,
I
house.
wish-
Yeah.
I wish I could express like the respect, Joe, that I have for that just instant response.
Yeah.
Not
it's
even
like he's
having it,
so
just like,
used
no.
to Matt's bullshit.
Not only that, but it's just like that depth of understanding of your own world where it's like, yeah, obviously I know what music they listen to. Are you dumb? It's not jazz. Like,
The funny thing is, I think maybe not the last 3 consecutive episodes, but there's been 3 episodes where Joe has brought up specifically that they listen to opera.
That's true. Wait, yeah, you're right, actually.
Oh my god.
It's part of when you're thinking about the Voski, you want to think about this high-tech hovercraft mechas, lasers, but with this operatic motif. Like the fact that they enjoy opera tells you a lot about their overall aesthetic, not just some of their cultural art, you know, like what do they like to listen to, but when you think about how it would, if you try to picture it in your head and you think opera, the opera house, you know, that's just a good it's a good starting place. That and
That's a
techno.
lot better than what was in my head because I was just thinking of the game FTL, and they're all kind of like pixely, like chips. And
I love
No?
FTL. FTL's real good.
This is a
I'm
free lesson in
obsessed.
world building, by the way. Everyone jot that down.
Noted.
Just got a YouTube series.
Hey!
We had one.
We did, actually.
Lunch and lore. Just don't have the time to run it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And it was also like entirely about the world that Quest for the Book of Dawn and Ioth Academy take place in. All right. You're resting in your palatial suites, but now a crisis lies ahead of you. You've collected the technical schematics you need to build the armor, the suit that will allow Florence Giotto to live outside of her pod without her shadow powers evaporating her flesh and turning her into nothingness. You've got the magical formulas for the binding spells that are going to be incorporated into this technological suit. Those two elements together are going to enable Florence to learn to control her powers, walk around, live a normal life, or at least a somewhat normal life again. What you don't have is an easy way to get back to Northport. For when this adventure began, Haura, headmistress of the Donahue Institute, and Blue Dragon had a number of terms for going on this adventure. She's the one who came up with the idea of how to save Florence's life, but in exchange, she wanted a piece of magical technology she refers to as the Kimzabin key, and John refers to as the Carmichael key. She also wanted to go with on the adventure, and on the way home, she wanted to visit her homeworld with John, and she wanted John's help dealing with something she left behind, a piece of unfinished business that she hasn't specified. Those were her terms to go on this adventure in the first place. So, dilemma the first. Florence is possibly dying. Her pod was damaged when Dr. Zorbius's massive Zorbot attacked the Institute, and an EMP was used to defeat it. With her light pod damaged, she doesn't have much time. You don't know how long that pod is going to sustain. You've been gone for a few days. You don't know how long she has. The sooner you get back to Northport, the better. So taking a detour to Haura's homeworld could put Florence's life at risk, but a promise was made. Second, just getting back to Northport is going to be difficult because when you came here, you got here by going to a portal in a piece of ruins taken from Senapulchre's tomb and transported to the museum in Northport. John and Haura used the Kimzabin key to hack that portal, so instead of going to the Dark Tower, it instead went to the facility on Lacunas. That facility on Lacunas is controlled by the Exarchate. You remember waking up there, you remember being surrounded by robots and holograms. Since then, you've actually had a chance to do battle with some of these robots, and you know how powerful they are. You know how dangerous they are. So, whether you want to go along with Haura's plan of returning to her homeworld first, or you want to try to go straight back to Northport, the way home is blocked. And there are other ways of leaving this place, but those won't take you right to Northport. And they're going to add a lot of time to your travel. When dawn breaks over the mountains the next morning, it is with these questions on your mind that you rise, unless you're focused on something else like food, which, is provided to you immediately. Starting with Beatdown, what do you want to do today?
Today? Is today not when we are we not having the gathering of main characters, if you will? Just to discuss what we're doing next? Or
that is up to you. As the main characters, the time of this gathering is in your hands.
Ooh.
I mean, ASAP sounds pretty good. I would like to, try and gather everybody.
Yeah, you kind of knocked out yesterday.
I did.
I was getting everyone together. I'm like, hey, where's Gastone? I'm like, oh, he's knocked out. I'm like, oh, dang it.
I know, yeah.
White workout.
True.
Long day. But you know what? Today's a new one.
Yes. It's going to be excellent.
All right. So Gastone would immediately reach out to the rest of the party members in their group Discord chat, asking them all, hey, we need to talk.
John thumbs ups the message. Hey, did we finally get Gastone a tablet?
You could easily have him. He could easily have a smartphone by now because he's in the Voski city. If you're like, hey, Prince, can I have a smartphone? He'd be like, yeah, sure. That's not even a fraction of the defense budget. Here you go. Thanks for saving our city from getting nuked last time you were here, champ.
Yeah.
Gastone, if you haven't already, add a Voski smartphone to your inventory.
Let's go.
Now, you haven't really studied computers very much yet. The only computers that you're familiar with are like in the 1930s, I think maybe they had calculating machines.
Maybe.
And now, obviously, as a practitioner of weird science, you'd be familiar with something a little bit more advanced. But weird science is never like, oh, I already have a smartphone. Weird science is always like a gigantic machine with, wheels on it that spin and flashing lights. And it, gives you results in a stereotypical warning, calculation failed.
It's a combination
of destroy.
Not quite uranium and ticker tape.
Mm-hmm. So again, what we would call normal computers are not something you're familiar with. One of the research trees you can progress down is computers if you have some time to spend studying. But you have a smartphone, you at least know how to contact everybody on it. You've put that out into the universe. Who do you want to include in this gathering? Who would you be addressing with this?
I don't understand the giggling. I feel like just the people you'd expect are going to be involved: John, Asena, and Haura.
Okay.
Hey.
I'm giggling because I don't think Asena's using a cell phone or.
Oh, okay, that's a good point. She's good hearing. Maybe we'll just shout her name and she'll show up.
when Gastone says that, John goes over their like actual radio and is like, "Hey, for those of you trapped in the oh gosh, what would this be? Yeah, just come to the meeting. Just
All right. So is everyone good to just go ahead and gather pretty much immediately?
Sure. I would. Wait a minute. Let me double check something. I have a note. Hold on a moment.
Oh.
Hold on just a darn tootin' minute here. I said I was ready, but I lied.
How could you?
Yeah, I think when Gastone is putting this message together, again, much that Janessa pointed out that Asena does not have a smartphone and doesn't get the Discord message. John goes on the radio like, "Hey, meet us here at such and such a time," and then he thinks, "Wait a minute, I think she brought up." Yeah, no, that's a good point. And before joining Gastone and the rest, or Gastone and Haura at the meeting area, John's gonna head by Asena's room first, and he I don't have a good enough. Did that come through? Did you hear that?
That was good.
Okay, good. Great.
I like the first one better.
Production value.
Just the slamming on my desk.
Yeah, it was more echoey. It was more like you were outside the door.
Ring, ring, hello.
Asena will open the door, but then she'll also get her radio and be like, "I thought we were meeting late. Never mind."
It's accidentally on an open channel, so Haura is just somewhere else in the complex doing her own thing when she just gets that message.
John says, "Yeah, no, I know. So here's the thing. I remember that at some point you had brought up that you wanted to learn how to do some crazy shit to wizards, and I kind of feel like I can help with that. But here's the thing. I know that there's going to be a lot of things we discuss in this upcoming meeting, but I think one of the main ones is going to be, like we brought up last night, deciding, are we going to head, or at least try to figure out how to get to Ashen to keep going on with Haura's quest, or now that we have what we came here for, if we could put a pin in that just for a moment and then just head back, drop that stuff off to save Florence, and then head on back out again." And it kind of seemed like we were a little bit split on that. I guess I kind of wanted to just make sure that, I get your sense of things.
Oh, well, I think I made myself clear. I want to go see more targets.
Yeah, no, totally. Absolutely. But like right this moment, or could we maybe put like a day delay on that? You know what I mean?
A day?
Hopefully ish, maybe a day ish. I don't know how long it takes to make a containment suit for what is she now? Early 20s? I don't know how long she's been trapped exactly.
I don't know why her age is relevant, but
Oh, well, I just meant like, I'm hoping. Look, cards on the table. I'm hoping to appeal to your good sense of judgment in that maybe if it's a girl who's been trapped in a pod since she was like 12, and now she's like an adult, and that kind of sucks. So maybe we could hopefully save her life and get her back in the world again.
are you trying to bribe me, John?
It's not a bribe. It's more so just a very tactical display of facts and figures.
Okay, you're saying lots of words. Let's bring it down.
Here's what I'm offering. I know that you want to know how to kill people like me, and I'm figuring
Same, to be
that
honest.
I could help you with that in exchange for maybe you going along with taking Gastone back to Gior and helping Florence.
You'll teach me how to kill
People like me. Wizards, mages,
Wizards.
spellcasters. Yeah.
if I agree to go back to Northport.
Just temporarily. Like just for just a hot second to do this whole save the girl, and then we can go right back out and go along with Haura's mission.
And what about Haura? She's going to be upset about it.
I mean, Haura's upset, like just that's the default mode. You know what I mean?
Not really. She's been quite lovely.
She can be, certainly. Here's what I'm thinking is going to happen. When we show up to the meeting, if there's going to be just the four of us, if we don't have a tiebreaker, Gastone's going to say, I want to go back. I'm going to say, that sounds good. Haura's going to say, I don't want to go back. You're going to say, that sounds good. And where are we going to... You see my dilemma?
I get your dilemma. I just can't get over the part where we
Care.
promised Haura that we would do a thing, and now we're not going to do a thing.
We're still going to do a thing. We're just going to not do the thing that might endanger the life of this person that we went on this quest for in the first place. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, imagine, for instance, if you had to go to the bathroom and I said, absolutely, I'm going to take you to the bathroom. For some reason, you need me to help. I don't know. But then I say, hey, wait a minute. I got to go get coffee before we go to the bathroom because you said you'd help me go get coffee. And the whole reason that I'm helping you go to the bathroom is because you're going to help me go get coffee. But if you're like, I'm going to pee myself before we get this coffee because I got to go now, like, that's bad, right? Like, if I say, no, you promised, and then I make you come get coffee with me, and then, that happens. Whereas I could just say, oh, yeah, pop in, do your thing, and then let's go get coffee. So Haura wants to go get coffee, and Gastone needs to use the restroom. You know what I mean? Like
This is like a bus crash meets a train wreck. Oh my god.
Two buses crashed on the railway crossing, and then a train just drove right through them.
I'm going to regret phrasing it this way, but I just want to help Gastone use the bathroom.
Oh my
You get
god.
what I'm saying here?
Asena's face is just like blank. She is not following at all. When are you going to teach me these things?
Hey, Gastone, when did you say the meeting was?
Is this now?
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for everyone to gather, basically.
Right after the meeting.
He's got the conference room reserved, and he's sitting there just watching the meeting ticket.
Like literally as soon as we're done, we can go back to that plaza where there was that cool statue of me that is actually honestly there. And then, we'll just set up a little ring and we'll do it there.
Before the meeting.
No, after the meeting.
Before the meeting.
Before the meeting. Okay. I don't have a cool voice like you guys. So John and Gastone, we're gonna be late. Santa wants to get coffee. We'll be there as soon as possible.
How late is that?
Don't worry about it.
You see, coming from John, I might not, but this is you. Dare I ask why?
I think Asena's gonna punch me.
I can't hear you anymore.
She's literally making
Yep,
mouth noises into
that-
her comm.
Yep. That, and now we've come full circle. You know what? You guys do what you got to do. I'm just gonna be here. Don't worry about me.
Hey, Gastone, maybe you could go through that tutorial app I sent you about that phone while you're waiting. Sorry.
What's an app?
An application. There's a little area on your phone where it has information, and you just gotta open the browser. And I feel like
you're breaking up.
whenever multiple ones of us are using the same channel and we try to go talk at the same time, it makes that static come up.
That's literally Asena making mouth noises into her comms. She heard somebody else do it once, and now she's like, I can do this too.
Why do I show her things? Why do I show anybody anything?
And John, he claps his hands together. Okay, let's go, but let's try to be quick. This might take a few. I don't know. You're a pretty fast learner. I don't know. We'll see how this goes.
I'm a fast learner.
And very quickly, they grab a car, grab a cab, whatever. What do they? Hey,
Car?
real quick, mate. What do we use to get around the city? Are we talking like rucksaws or like floating platforms or cars, or what are we looking at?
So a lot of it is
Rickshaw. That's what I was looking for. Rucksaw.
a hover rickshaw.
I don't know what a rucksaw is, but it's not what I was thinking.
So a lot of this,
Close to league champion.
a lot of the city has built-in like public transport. It's a series of tubes, but also
Like Futurama.
Like you hop in a little subway pod and it hovers you to where you need to go. But again, we've got Coruscant style. If Coruscant was built in a box canyon, Coruscant style sky traffic hover cars going around.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Athenius Voski, before he ran away to join the Red Cross Knights, was an infamously good racer.
Oh.
He did it's not street racing because you're not driving on the street, but like he did, dangerous hover drift racing.
Oh God.
He was a bit of
he was a bad boy before he was a rebel.
He was. So there's, floating, and a lot of them have local like networks so that they communicate with each other, which is the only way that you could reasonably have sky traffic without people just crashing into each other and making fools of themselves.
Oh yeah.
So you can get a hover cab, or because you're personal guests of Casimir, a hover limo.
Oh. Asena, you want to take the limo or the cab? Huh? Oh, I think you're muted.
I get +1 XP.
Damn it. She just said what?
We're gonna hop in the limo, and John just takes a seat in the limo.
A
You
big car.
You fly off through the city.
John specifically summons Chester in the limo so he can get hair all over the place.
Ooh.
That's +1 evil.
I think more like +1 renegade, but yeah, okay.
Your alignment has shifted 1 point towards troll.
Okay, very good. And yeah, I mean, when Chester shows up, he absolutely prefers Asena to John. So he moves up and just curls up on her lap and just does the.
All right. What is Gastone going to do now that the meeting has been postponed with no ETA provided? Haura walks in. Haura, like, if the meeting has already. Haura arrives like 60 seconds before the meeting is scheduled.
I actually think I might just talk to Haura about this before they get here. Because I feel like she's the only one that needs convincing. Because Asena is just kind of like, I want to do what the dragon lady's going to do.
So she walks in, hair up in a bun, glasses on, takes a seat, looks at the clock on the wall, looks 0% surprised.
Yeah, they're gonna be quite late. But honestly, this is fine because even though this was a meeting for all of us, most of what I was going to say was for you. So we can just kind of do this anyway and fill them in later.
She nods and raises an eyebrow.
Whose eyebrow is it?
Hers. Left one. Otherwise, there'd be like an athletics check involved to reach over and.
the second she doesn't know I have the schematics, does she? Because we haven't interacted since they got back. Okay. So we haven't talked in a bit, and I slept early last night. Well, early. So what happened was that when I went to the Shadow Pits, I actually found what we came here for.
She tilts her head back, looking inquisitively, and says, "Nothing."
The shadow armor for Florence Giotto, if you recall. I actually ended up acquiring those schematics from someone, probably Vignar. Jury's still out on that.
Let me take a look.
And I will just give them to her.
All right. She uses the conferencing software in the room, drags it over, does the Tony Stark thing, brings up a holo projection, pulls apart some segments of the armor, and as she does, instructions and schematics and part specifications just display as she sort of separates and looks through things. Yes. I don't think we'll need... She gestures at a part of the arm that has a shoulder or an arm wrist-mounted blade that pops out.
Yeah.
Probably less. In fact, overall, you think this looks a little bulky for our purposes?
See, on the one hand, I want to say yes, but on the other hand, our purpose is her literal survival, especially with us running out of time. So I feel like this is kind of what we got. Although I wholeheartedly agree with removing weaponry.
I mean, armor plating, superfluous systems, anything not specifically related to preserving her corporeal integrity is probably extraneous, unless you're planning on teaching her to fight crime.
Not exactly on the menu. I've actually still kind of been lately battling with myself, wondering, let's see what her alignment is, because we already know who her father is. But you do make a good point. I think we could, or rather, maybe should, remove some of the, I believe you said superfluous material.
What is your purpose in all of this, after all? She's the daughter of someone you've expressed a great deal of contempt for. She's been in stasis effectively for the last, 4-5 years? Who knows if she even knows who she is anymore?
You believe a child should be held responsible for their parents' sins?
Absolutely not. I'm just curious about what's going on in your head.
Well, it's basically the same thing. She's not her father. And there's no reason for her to live life like that, especially in the clutches of Zorbius.
So you have no stake in the outcome, no expectations or hopes aside from her being able to live. Have you thought any further ahead than that?
No. Like you said, no stake.
And what are you going to do? Let's say that we build this. She pulls out she basically drags another file over, and it projects, and it is a series of draconic runes, glyphs, and diagrams that have no technical application whatsoever. They look more occult, ritualistic. It's you've slowly become more exposed to this sort of material over time in your recent adventures. It's magic. It's arcane formulas guiding mystical energies that you still don't understand. Vignar's technology, of course, is not purely technological. They derive most of their teachings from a profound understanding of draconic magic with a little side helping of shadow magic from their previous patron, the Night Dragon. That will be my part, absolutely. You take care of the technical specifications. I'll make sure that this is all laid in. So we build this armor for her. a survival suit, an environmental suit. All the enchantments are inlaid. It works. Maybe there's a few problems to iron out, but it works. We save her life. What next? What happens after that?
I think we see what kind of state she's in. You said it yourself. She's been in that pod 4, maybe 5 years. May not know who she is anymore. Who knows what sleeping that long does to a person, especially one with her disposition.
Yes. Who knows if she's really been asleep or something worse.
Exactly.
So then after that, it's just play it by ear?
Honestly, I feel like that's the only option, because there could be literally 1,000 ways this could play out. And instead of trying to meticulously plan for all of that, which I quite frankly don't think we have the time with all we're doing. I think we just see where the dice fall.
At that point, assuming that she's willing, she'll be my problem, not yours.
Well, if she, and this is a truly rose-colored glasses best case scenario, wants to stay at the Donahue Institute and also shows contempt for her father's ways, I'll help you however I can. I definitely don't want to leave her for the dogs, but should she choose to go back to that life, that's hers to make.
I imagine that would make further visits to Thornacre rather awkward.
I mean, it makes no difference to me. If she wants that life, she will receive the consequences of that life.
Roll an insight check, Gastone.
Oof.
7. All right. Haura, as much as she's in human guise, is at the end of the day a dragon, and dragons are hard to read. So you're not really sure. She just sort of nods and falls silent, contemplating the floating schematics, leaving the next words to you.
And there's one other thing the main thing I needed to talk to you about regarding all of this. Look, I remember what the deal was, technically is, with regards to our itinerary, but I do want to bring up and, in fact, remind you that when the Donahue Institute was assaulted, her pod was damaged. And we've been gone, maybe 3-4 days. I barely had time to figure out, 1, to repair it into any working condition, 2, to get any sort of estimate for how long she's going to last in there in its current condition. I feel like now that we have this, we should go to her ASAP. But I know you have clearly expressed desires to not go straight back to Northport. Now keep in mind, this isn't me opting out of the whole trip, if you will. I'm simply asking for a diversion.
You want to go back to Northport before John fulfills his bargain.
I do.
Gastone, roll persuasion check for me. 24. Haura
That was awesome.
adjusts her glasses, leans forward, puts her elbows almost, sort of her hands folded, almost resting on the table, but not quite. I want you to understand what you're asking. John and Asena, what's your training like?
So while they're now, John was taking us to the very same fountain with the very same statue that isn't actually there, but John pretends is.
Now, is it a statue of somebody else that you're doctoring, or is there no statue?
No, John was doctoring it.
Okay, it was actually a statue of one of the original Voski Esper Knights who was alive during the Ulhar incursion when the time freeze ended, who saved their people, one of the founders of the house. Who you just use an illusion to, oh, it's me.
Yeah.
Carry on.
And he literally, it looks exactly the same. It's just the face is John's face. Everything else, however decked out
This is
guy
like,
is.
the Emperor of Mankind in power armor with a glistening blade of psionic energy, challenging as if about to fight a dragon, with a spiked metal halo around his massive power shoulders, and John's face.
And then John's face.
Oh my gosh.
So when they arrived, John had kind of made sure, unless I can't assume this place, since he picked it out from before, should be. Last time it was kind of empty to people, so hopefully it still is. But they set up by the fountain. John pulls out some mats out of his bag, or rather the case of carrying, and just lays down like a section of like rugs and mats to kind of make a makeshift, like, not workout area, but like in the center area of like a dojo, you have like the mats where you'll either do your performances or you'll practice and whatnot. He kind of does a makeshift
stuff
version of that. Yeah, exactly. So that way, any falls that happen during this aren't going to be too, awful for either of them. Probably John. And John uses a couple of spells, mostly cantrips, but also some basic illusion magic, and ends up firing up a soundtrack that is just Mulan's Let's Get Down to Business on loop. And then both Asena and John, he has it set up to where he starts taking off like his jacket and some of his extra stuff, gets down to just like,
3-piece suit underneath. So it's like what does he have? The vest, the tie, the trousers?
No, he takes, that is correct. 3-piece suit. He takes all that off to where he just has his undershirt and the pants. But then he activates an illusion to where both Asena and John are wearing like boxing uniforms.
What?
So they have like the laced up boots, the large flashy shorts. Both of them are wearing like close fitting tanks or some kind of like sleeveless top, and then big old boxing gloves. None of that's actually on there. It just looks like that's the case.
Does he have like the big puffy boxing helmets or no?
John does. Asena doesn't.
What?
This is weird.
If she wants it, he'll put it on. But if he figures he's making himself look like Little Mac, and she's like one of the bosses he would be going up against in terms of like how the style is. She's too cool. Like when you don't wear a helmet unless you're actually going to get hit. Like it's not aesthetically pleasing, that kind of thing. So he's making himself look like the underdog or the rookie out of the two of them.
Asena, roll an intelligence saving throw.
Okay.
They're very convincing illusions, even though they have no physical weight to them.
And so John squares up. He stands maybe about 15 feet away from Asena and is taking and it's not like John is, he definitely is a scholar, but he's a scholar that used to be an actual, agent among the, secret society that he was a part of back at home. And he's got some firearm training and whatnot. So even though he's not like great in an unarmed fight, he knows his way around.
He's got some CQC.
Yeah, exactly. So he takes a fighting stance, puts up his guard, and just says, "Okay, just come at me as if you were, going to attack a regular person.
Just come at you.
Yeah, just hit me.
Do you want me to punch you?
I mean, don't kill me, but yeah, try maybe pull the blow, but yeah, try and land a hit.
Roll an unarmed attack.
Feels weird. Okay.
Meanwhile, Haura's like, God, I wish that was me. A 22 to hit.
And so she comes in and Asena just charges forward and she just straight punch, about to just rush in and sock John in the face. And right as she approaches, he casts the incantation and brings up the shield spell, which at the last moment barely deflects. The force field pops up and her blow just goes barely, almost grazing his cheek, as it looks like you're about to punch right into him. And instead the blow just goes off to the side. Miss.
What the hell was that?
Hey, what armor class does that take your what does that take your AC up to, John?
It's 23. It's
23?
I know it missed because it actually missed. I was watching it.
When she strikes, John, you feel your spell wavering. The plane of force that you conjure comes in contact with another energy field. Roll a Constitution saving throw.
Interesting. Okay. DM, I'd like to remind you this is our segment, so I need you to just get off our back real quick. Oh wow, that's a completely black dice. I can't see anything.
Oh, I thought that was just on my screen.
No, that's actually really ominous. I should do that more often. What is the save for a level 1 spell? I think an 11 just barely makes it, right? We'll say that an 11 barely makes it. So, anyways,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay,
is this a counter spell?
Your spell almost breaks.
Okay, interesting.
Carry on. Your scene.
Okay,
let me get off that thing.
Yeah, hold on a moment. Arcana check. What just happened? Yeah, no. You came in here. 25. Please continue. What happened?
There was resonance between your shield spell and the dragon fang and the energy that surrounds. She does force damage when she punches.
Yes, she does. Yeah.
It almost cracked your force shield.
Really? Okay, John's intrigued and actually wants to start experimenting with that. And over the course of their fight, I don't know how much of this you want us to actually play out, but basically John is goading her into attacking as if she was just fighting a regular person. And at every turn, he pulls out all the stops and is just pulling out his magical tricks one after the other. And sometimes it works and he's able to either deflect or block it. Sometimes she's able to land the blows. And he's trying to give her a sense that when you're fighting a magic user, it's not a man is not a man, a woman is not a woman. These are just vessels. For
gender is a construct.
Exactly. People are not just people, and that's when you're fighting a magic user, you're not fighting flesh and bone. You're fighting a usually mortal, but sometimes not, vessel or being that is channeling this force of energy. So you're not fighting that person, you're fighting the force of energy. And until that connection to that expansive force is either severed or exhausted, it's very difficult for you to be able to actually approach them as a mortal person. And so he goes on to explain that, and as he's pumping out, all these spells, it's starting to very slowly weaken his reserves. And he goes on to explain that if you really focus, you can get a good sense of like what kind of energy someone is giving off. And I don't know if you want her to roll for something, mate, but he's kind of trying to show her like giving her
what I want to hear is how Asena is taking to this training, any questions that she's asking during it, any challenges or anything that she's feeling or experiencing during it from Asena.
I don't think she's asking too many questions. She's kind of just absorbing it all. But as she continues to fight and whenever he blocks, she's getting angry. Though she does know that this is valuable because she hasn't come across too many spellcasters, but they freak her out.
Fair.
And John absolutely uses that as they're sparring. The more frustrated that Asena is getting, the more he kind of is trying to push her buttons. Kind of having seen how Asena approaches her fighting style, she's very, very, very strong. Most of the time, whenever he's seen somebody whenever he encounters martial artists, they're usually a lot more lithe and they are looking for pressure points and are trying to make sure that their strength doesn't come from being physically strong, but by using the strength of their opponent. Whereas Asena is literally just physically strong. Yeah, she's also dexterous, but she's an absolute raw powerhouse. And so he's trying to goad her into making mistakes and showing her when fighting someone like him, how that can get you in trouble. He's kind of pushing it in that route and trying to get her angry and mad.
Asena, roll an insight check, please.
You got it.
A dirty 20. As this fighting is going on, you're starting to get a feel for John's tells when he's about to cast a spell. A lot of his spells require him to say some magic words or to make certain hand gestures. A lot of the times when he does his spells, there'll be lines of light in the air. He's like drawing runes in the air or making very specific movements. In a way, it's almost like your martial arts where, this punch and this kick and stuff, but they're much smaller things. And you can see the concentration on his face as he's tapping into this arcane power. And you have power sources that you can tap into. You've experienced the power of nature, how when you are bringing things back to life or healing animals or things like that, it opens up a part of your mind that's normally closed. And so by relating that experience that you've had to what it's like to fight John hand to hand whenever he's casting these spells, you start to say, okay, when he does this, that means he's focusing on the spell. If I do something really unexpected at that exact moment, I can mess up his concentration. Or if I know to look for this little change in his pace or the sudden, you're somewhat sensitive to magical energy yourself. So when you're attuned to that and you kind of feel that flow of magic, if you strike in that exact moment before you even see the opening, just going for that feeling, then you have a better chance of disrupting him. You have a very intuitive, because of your own intuitive understanding of magic. It's not something that you've studied. It's not something you could write a book about. It's something that you feel and experience. And by going off of that feeling and linking that to how John is fighting you, you're starting to get better at looking for those openings, looking for those signs, looking for weaknesses when fighting a mage.
And during the fight, John specifically, as things start trailing on and he kind of considers her going from like, okay, we're moving from the basic stuff and moving into actual challenges, he starts throwing actual like powerful magic at her. Nothing that's like damaging, but he drops like hold persons, things that take concentration and can go from just normally Asena just dukes it out and is like, okay, you hit me, I take damage. The worst stuff that Asena has suffered in the past that has really gotten to her is when she was stunned or paralyzed, someone got into her head or was able to stop her from using her physicality against her opponents. And he brings that to bear, kind of showing her that really the things that a mage is going to bring that's going to really hurt isn't even casting fire spells or force magic, stuff that's going to hurt your body. It's going to be taking away your choices. That's where the real power of a mage lies, is in stopping you from doing what you're good at. And as he's doing this, he explains the closer that you get to a mage, the scarier it gets, because that distance and that control is what gives a mage their power. But if you can close in and be right in their face, you take away half of the advantage that they have. And like you were explaining, mate, he goes on to elaborate that concentration is key, and anything that can interrupt that. And when you stop a mage from being able to concentrate on their spell, you're taking away a huge arsenal of their power. And he's really kind of driving home that any chance you get, just stay in their face and never let them go. And
I'm
do
pretty
everything
good
you
at
can.
in your face.
Exactly. Yeah, and you already have a huge kit that is already made for taking on people like John. But between the two of you are sparring, he's really just kind of trying to drive home where your strengths are and where a mage's weaknesses are and how you can use what you have to exploit it.
Also, break fingers.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, and John goes on to show when he's casting both verbal and somatic components that without being able to talk or without being able to do this, and he kind of wiggles his fingers around, it becomes far more difficult to get anything going for a magic user.
So what if I punch you in the throat?
Yeah, that sucks. That's really bad. And he goes on to explain that with spellcasting, you have technically 4 components. There's verbal. A lot of spells, almost all of them, but not quite everything, will require some kind of verbal component to give the spell its oomph and power. Many spells also require somatic or movement. You'll need to make sure that you're doing some kind of gesture or movement in order to give the spell the finesse it needs to be able to get in and get done what it has to. Then there's going to be the material cost. And with the material cost, some spells require a reagent or some kind of, and he goes on to explain, you've seen, usually whenever I'm casting spells, when it really comes down to the powerful magic that I have to use, I'll usually call upon the power, and he pulls out the amulet, the red kiss. This is what I usually use as a focus for a lot of my spells. But a lot of mages will use other things, and he kind of digs into his briefcase and pulls out a component pouch, and he starts displaying different spell reagents, like, the
Eye of Newt, Ear of Toad,
Bat Guano, that kind of stuff, and explaining that the material itself is not always so important. It's what the meaning it is to that mage. Yes, most times when you're using Fireball, you're going to be using things like sulfur and Bat Guano, but different things have different importance to different mages, and as long as it gets across what you're trying to do, that's the important thing. That being said, I can't just walk up and grab a pile of dirt and use that to cast my spells. I need to make sure that I have some kind of sympathetic connection to a item that is able to get across what I'm trying to do, or I have to have one of these. And he just shows her the amulet that he uses to power most of his spells. That being said, if you can take away a mage's components or their focus, that cripples them.
So if someone took your amulet, you'd be screwed.
Well, I mean, I've got a lot of backups. You know, I don't just carry around one focus just in case that's the case. But absolutely, yeah, if you were able to silence me, break my fingers, and take away everything that I use to cast spells, I mean, it'd be very difficult to continue casting. At least I haven't come up with ways to get around such things as of yet. Some mages have, though. So don't always think that everything that you use against one is going to be used against another. I think the important things to take away from today's session is stay close, hit hard, and never give them an inch.
And what about my necklace? Do you think that's an amulet?
I would not be surprised if that could be used as a focus. I mean, you yourself have displayed with your ability to hyper focus on different aspects of yourself. You've been able to replicate magical effects as far as I can tell. So you may absolutely be using that as a focus without even realizing it. Also, can we try something? And John just sits down with her, kind of like if they're sitting like patty cake style, like face to face. Look, I'm going to try this thing again. And please, how about aiming for the shoulder? Hit me. I'm not going to try and dodge, but I'm going to bring up my shield. I want to see if your amulet can break through that shield, because there was some kind of weird reaction when you've been hitting me with it. And John prepares for the chance of taking this blow.
She'll hit him.
And
if John's just sitting there waiting to tank it, you get advantage on the attack.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I was hoping was going to happen here.
Shit.
So roll again. We'll take the better of the two.
Well.
Yeah, you need to roll a 17 or else it's not going to work. That being said, I kind of feel like, dice aside, John is letting the attack hit, but he's just bringing the shield up at the last moment. But he's giving her every opening to where this should be basically like he's like being helpless. He's not dodging whatsoever.
All right. So yeah, Asena, John, when you pull up that shield spell, is it invisible, translucent, or is it visible with like a glow of any kind?
It's an invisible shield, but when anything that would normally hit me, the shield will get in the way, and it's almost like there's this flash of iridescent blue that washes over like an immediate vicinity around him.
Okay. So when you get punched, the punch stops short and there's a blue flash normally.
It usually glances, almost like armor. The blow will glance away, not stopping it in its tracks.
Okay. Asena.
It's less like a flat shield and more like a rounded aura.
To like glide off.
Yeah.
Asena, when you hit this invisible thing that he summons, instead of there being a blue flash, there's a silver light. And John, you see cracks, like spiderweb cracks in a windshield, emanate out through it.
Is John able to see what this means? Like, obviously, her amulet has the power to break through his shield, but what does that mean? Like, if he's translating it into, like, let's just say game terms. Like, for instance, she was one away from hitting my armor class the very first time that we talked about this. But normally, if you were to hit the armor class anyway, you would still break through the shield and hit the attack. So what is the fundamental difference between a normal attack that would hit and her amulet? Is John able to discern that?
If there was just a little bit more power behind it, it would just break, like, theoretically, with a little more power or some other catalyst, it would just shatter your spell as if it wasn't there.
As if it wasn't there. Okay, so because John already knows that since she's gotten this, she's been, it seems like, attuning to it more and more, and she's been describing different powers she's been getting over time with this. So, okay.
Whether it has yet to awaken, or, like I said, some other power source would need to catalyze it, you're not sure, but it's very close. Not just to, like, essentially the in-game effect would be that it would ignore that armor class bonus.
Yeah, it would ignore force. Now, ooh. Does John have a force field? I do. Hey, John is going to, during this conversation, he's going to summon the floating disc, which that is a circular shield of force that can be used to hold things.
Mhm.
And he's going to hold that up and see if she can break through it.
Okay. So it's essentially like a 3-foot across dish, floating, glowing disc made of energy it just hovers along the ground.
Yeah.
How does Asena, if John is telling Asena to break it, how is she going to go about doing that?
I was just gonna ask, is she gonna like try to like Hulk smash this thing?
Your call.
So she'll get both of I guess she'll like clench both of her fists together and try to go outwards at it from the top.
Okay. You could do this as an unarmed attack, or you could do this as an athletics check. It sounds right now like it's an unarmed attack because you're trying to smash it rather than like grab it and rip it apart. So roll an unarmed attack.
Also, point of order, now that they've been finished sparring, they're in like karate gis now instead of like boxing attire, now that they're kind of in the cool down phase.
Cobra Kai. Yeah, she cracks it. She comes down with both hands. At the point of impact, there's a burst of silver light, and it shatters, and there's silver light in the cracks, and she breaks the spell.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
I think I'm pretty good at this.
I absolutely think you're pretty good at this. Asena, I'm not sure if anything's changed since the last time I took a look at this, but would you mind if we could, while we're kind of wrapping up here, would you mind if I could sit down with your with your dragon fang for a few minutes and see if I can identify it and find out if anything has changed since the last time it was inspected?
She'll grab it and pull on the clasp and hand it to him. If you do anything to it, I'm gonna punch you in the face.
Noted.
And then she'll drop it in his lap.
Okay. John's going to attempt to grab the thong or the holder, whatever kind of string is, chain, what have you. Can you do that, or you want me to roll for something, mate?
Oh, you can do that. If you want to roll a dexterity saving throw to catch it, and if you want to introduce the possibility of failure, you are always welcome to do so. Otherwise, it's an automatic success.
Can it be acrobatics?
I would accept acrobatics.
Ma'am. I just want to see. Yeah.
17. Cool. All right. He catches it.
Nice. And John spends the next 10 minutes casting the identify spell while the music is still going.
Okay.
You caught our DM off guard.
I did. I love doing that.
Currently, this item, so here's what you learn. The properties and how to use, whether it requires attunement, and how many charges it has, if any. Currently, Asena's amulet has the following properties. It is a magic weapon. It makes her unarmed strikes magical, and it adds +1 to those strikes.
Magic weapon or wondrous item?
It is a wondrous item. It makes her unarmed attacks magical and adds +1 force to her damage on those attacks. It gives her telepathy with any being within. Go ahead.
You said +1 force damage, or it makes her attacks force damage?
It makes her attacks magical.
Makes her attacks magical.
And it makes her unarmed attacks deal +1 force damage.
Okay, but they do not do straight force damage.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Correct.
What's the next part?
She can communicate telepathically with any creature within 60 feet as long as that creature has a language.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
That's cool.
It also has an ability called Dimension Strike.
60 feet?
60 feet.
And by language, you mean she can't communicate with animals? It has to be.
Matt, I'll just send you this. I've got a write up.
Yeah. That's fine. I'm just wondering. I'm just clarifying if language means non-animal.
Correct. It has to.
Okay.
Its stat block has to say it has a language.
Copy that. Now, what about understands a language but doesn't have one? Does that count?
I believe so. If
Cool.
that's the case, it might be that you can communicate to it, but it can't communicate back.
That makes sense.
Its last ability, Dimension Strike. On a critical hit, Asena's attacks deal an additional 1d8 force damage, and the target is engulfed in wisps of astral mist. Their speed is reduced by half. Don't write this down. I'll just copy paste it to you.
Oh, okay, cool.
Their speed, while they're wrapped up in this mist, their speed is reduced by half. They have disadvantage on their attack rolls, and if they try to teleport or any sort of dimensional travel whatsoever, they have to roll a wisdom saving. They have to roll a charisma saving throw, or the attempt fails. They get a new save at the end of each of their turns to end the effect.
Wow.
It also,
and while John is, go ahead.
it also has vague, unawakened, force-related abilities.
Okay, so it's still evolving, basically.
Yes, you also see, like, as your mind transcends and you focus on it, you see astral winds surrounding it, like in a little storm sphere, flowing to and from and through Asena.
That's awesome.
As for attunement, you could not attune to this item. Asena could attune to this item. She is imbued or filled with these astral winds, and you are not.
Is John aware that it's like, because some items he's come across have like a class attunement or like a race attunement. Is this like a outlined Asena attunement, or is it that it's whatever attunement it is, she qualifies for it?
You perceive when you're connected to the item that it is surrounded by the astral winds, and that Asena is basically filled with the astral winds, spiritually speaking. That enables her to attune to it. You do not have this property. That's what you know. This doesn't fit any matched classification you've ever experienced.
Gotcha. But we know that the winds is the connecting point. Okay. John is going to make a note to research these astral winds. That sounds like important.
Meanwhile, in the conference room with Gastone, does he respond when she says she wants him to understand what he's asking of her?
He just waits
for
her to continue.
My home is a world called Ashen. That's what it's called now. It had another name tens of thousands of years ago. Vorel, beauty. But the home that I knew is a massive planetary desert, closer to the sun than any of the other worlds in that system. Hotter, drier, sandier than... She gestures out the window, somewhat dismissively at Lacunas. It was all that I knew. The occasional band of raiding Johnny. Empty ruins with old ghosts winding through, sandblasted by the winds. And others of my kind. The ones who were left behind. The ones who never came here. Left to rule over a dead world, long since abandoned by anyone who would call it home. It was what I knew. It was what we all knew. And there is very little in the way of prey or pride or anyone to rule over. Just more desert. Rivals scavenging over the bones of the past. Until John came along. She pauses, frowns. Roll an insight check, Gastone. 10. You're not sure what's going on behind her eyes, behind those spectacles. She just sort of shifts away from the topic. Before he and his companions came to my world, I was really only concerned with one thing. There was very little to differentiate myself among my peers. But I thought that magic would hold the key. In my territory, small, surrounded on all sides by much older, stronger of my kind, there was a small piece of the civilization we knew scarcely anything about. Even a dragon only lives so long. Our memory of the great departure to this world, 8 generations back, an eternity, enough time for civilizations to rise and fall for your kind. But they left something behind, a shrine, a well, a place of power, a vault. I could feel it. I could feel the energy surrounding it. We're not like you. Some of you are born with the gift of magic. Some of you have some higher connection to the cosmos. The rest of you rely on your own ingenuity. She gestures at you and your creations to make something of yourselves. But we are born of magic. It's part of us. It flows from us. From the moment we hatch from the egg to the twilight of our lives, it's with us. I could feel it pulsing, a nexus of energy, secrets, power that would set me apart from the elders, make me from somebody who had nothing but sand in my own hunting grounds into someone, a force to be reckoned with, if I could understand it, if I could comprehend it. But it is protected. There's a nest of 3 Nagas who call it home. They're effectively immortal. Every time I even tried to get close to the place, they'd warn me off. No, this isn't for you. This is not meant for your eyes. It's too dangerous. It's beyond your comprehension. I hated them. I hated the pity in their voice. I hated the way they thought that it was for them to decide. I am of the Darastrix. I should not be constrained by any being. But they were stronger. And so I spent years just soaring over the place, looking for weaknesses, thinking of ways to get inside, to take whatever it was, whatever power, whatever magic lay within. Nothing for years. When John came to my world, I thought he was prey. He was in my territory. That made him prey. Weaker, Munthrek, human, meat. Treasure to be taken. Food. Thralls. I want him. I want him to take me, to go with me. I want him to follow me. I want him to follow me back to that shrine. The only thing I ever wanted before I want to go back and reclaim it. She looks at you as if she's done, as if what she said is a complete sentence.
Reclaim it?
Yes.
If this thing is guarded, what difference would another day or two make? Do you think there are others who are seeking this power?
I want what I wanted before he came along. I want that to matter again. I want who I was to matter again. Every day without that is another day that there is a glimmer in her eyes, the faintest hint of an apex predator, someone with a territory, someone who hunts, someone who kills. That's what you're asking. More days before that.
Does John know why we're doing this?
She nods.
I don't know what to say.
She sits back in her chair. Her head bumps against the back of it. Her bun gets messed up and comes half undone. She doesn't seem to notice.
Look, this is a good 60% of what you said is beyond my knowledge. I'm going to be just completely upfront about that. You know where I'm from. You know what I'm all about. But what I will say is, I gotta word this really well.
Take as much time as you want. Gastone lives in this universe. You have, like, stuff to do outside of this every week.
True. I think the thing I want to say is something to the tune of like, okay, I don't claim to understand what all of that feels like, but I think the two things that I want to get across is one, I think for what it's worth, even though we can and honestly will attempt to kind of reclaim what was important to you, who you were, I think you should still look at yourself, ask yourself who and what you are now, and at least in some capacity be okay with that. Because I don't know about dragons, but for people, the way we kind of look at things is this is the hand that we're dealt, and we just kind of deal with it. And as for my second point, I still kind of agree that who you were matters, but this kind of parallels with what we're trying to do with Florence too, because she's stuck right now. Who she was matters too, and that's why I want to help her, and that's why I'm still asking for an extra day or two so we can deal with this. After that, you have, of course, John and Asena, and you have me fully committed, whatever that looks like on a world that borns dragons, births dragons.
It wasn't fate.
I'm sorry?
Humans take the hand that they're dealt by fate. It wasn't fate. It was a mortal. Fate's omnipotent. Mortals aren't.
You mean that You mean immortal is what got you to where you are?
She didn't seem to respond to the second thing that you said. Roll insight for me, which continues to be a challenge for Gastone.
Yeah.
Not
22.
now, baby.
There we go.
Gotta love this game.
You said two things essentially. Your two things were who you are now still matters because humans just, deal with the reality that they're living in. There is a part of her that resonated with that and a part of her that rejects it entirely. But you also feel like you have, even though who she was before matters to her, who she is now, who she's become, is a teacher. And we'll follow up on that after we take a short break. Don't go anywhere. Coriander Society Adventures will be right back.